Buenas tardes, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, thank you to all for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support everybody extend and sends my way. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video. Gracias. And before I get into what I want to touch on today, as I promised, I want to touch on the cases that took me into prison this last time for over 20 years. And I just ask, do please keep it respectful because, you know, one of the moms, she's been with me for over 20 years. She's a beautiful Christian lady, but she wanted to hear it as she's doing so right now. And she also wants to be able to let go of it, right? Or like she says, more so, help me let go of it, cause it's it's difficult, from my angle. If it was just cutthroat game banging, then it just happens, right? But nevertheless, one of my biggest supporters has been her. You know why? I don't know why. God just has have had her by my side when I needed to speak to somebody, right? But it didn't start out like that. Let me just run you through things. When I was on the streets, I said it before, I had a lot of hate towards norteños. I'm talking about a lot of hate. You guys just probably don't comprehend it. I know hate is a strong word, but that's exactly what it was, right? From the day I tried to say Luisillo and I couldn't, and well, I have the scars all over my face and head due to it that remind me every day, right? And anyways, shortly after that, I joined the barrio. Back then, to join our barrio was you go pull a mission, complete the mission, then you would be allowed, right? If at least you grew up around us, or well, many things played into effect, right? Nevertheless, I was born and raised in South Park, but I never really got along in the sense of, doing extras. I was always out there in West Ninth playing soccer or out towards Moreland or, you know, just with the ones that turned out to be homies, right? And we were cool though. We were cool. South Park, myself, and you know their grandmas and grandpas and ex. They used to like me. I used to like them, and it was all firmes, right? I stated it before. Even though all this was playing around me, I was never an idiot. I didn't want no part of it. The one that was keeping me from it was, Speedy or Luis. I don't know if a lot of you have seen a Virgin Mary I have over my right breath, and it's just his name, rest in peace, because he had the Virgin Mary across his whole back, right? But anyways, that day was just every normal day. We lived on 946 Grand Avenue, and it basically had a big drive-through cochera that went to the side of the house, to the back of the houses, and his girlfriend Bubbles calls me and tells me like, "Hey fool, you're awake?" And I told her I'm out here in the porch, right? And he goes, "I'm gonna send this fool to the house. He's hella drunk though, cause my mom had brought their mom from Michoacan, and they were staying in the guest house behind the house, right? A two-bedroom house." And I told her to just hurry up. That way I could lock his butt down and I could go inside, right? I always been a rollero. I don't know if guys know what a rollero is. I'm always thinking. I'm always foreseeing things, and my thing was, I don't think school was gonna be it. For me, it was gonna be the Marines, right? The minute I could, I was gonna join the Marines and go out, and if I'm gonna get killed, regardless, at least there was gonna be a benefit for my jefa or for my family, right? It wasn't gonna be okey doke. Again, at this time, I was cool with everybody in Rosetown. Sincerely, we I didn't have no pedos with nobody. Even when I was with homies, they would start like, "Hey, where are these fools kicking it? Hey, miss me with that." You know, I ain't, I ain't part of it. Same way when with I was with South Park, right? Hey, where can we find this? Go do your homework, homeboy. You know, miss me with it. I ain't getting involved with you guys' stuff. It's just not in my plans. You know. Anyway, shortly before this, I started playing soccer for uh, for Raul Ramirez. He made a team that used to play for Los Oros de Jalisco, right? And anyways, we made a team. We started playing. The one thing I've always had is I'm a hothead. I don't hold back. I for nobody, and I do mean nobody. Jefa, whatever. I'm just a hothead, right? So every game I was fighting, and I wasn't doing that bad in soccer. Believe me. Just Raul had a son, Hugo. He uh he was involved with a couple clubs of boxing up there in Frisco, and he told me like, "Hey, since you like to fight, why don't you come to Frisco and you put some footwork for it, at least see if maybe that's your outlet. Because soccer, you're good, but you can't be in a sport where you're going to get mad and want to beat up somebody, right? So, anyways, long story short, I said, Simon, you know, I really like boxing, and whatever to get out the gutter, it was it was fine with me. And anyways, I started training with them, and little by little things started finessing, like entering clubs in Lakeport, San Rafael, Oakland. We entered one in Vallejo, and anyways, for being a young bug as I was, I had the for my age group the Golden Gloves of the Bay Area, right? And I liked it. I sincerely like boxing. It really it seems easy to me, you know. I don't know if you guys ever get into something where you start doing it and it just blends in with your character, right? That's how boxing was, and anyways, at this time I was still going to the junior high, so they involved me to the minute I went to junior high to get into wrestling to keep to pick up upper body strength, right? Neck strength, which I did, and maybe one day I'll show you guys. The only achievements I have throughout my whole life is them three trophies from best color of the year, the Golden Gloves from the Bay Area, and the three purple ribbons from Olympic wrestling. That's all I ever done in life, to be sincere. But anyways, getting back on track, right? That night, Bombitas called me and tells me just receive him and put him in the house, throw him in the living room, whatever, right? Again, they were family, right? From my mom and their mom, they were like primas, right? So it was like whatever. Again, the porch, the drive-in is long. It had a big old tree there with I think it was a '51 Cadillac next to the tree, and then just drive-in, right? And me personally, I used to love to fight. Everybody that knew me in South Park and or in the other angle, they knew I love to fight. You weren't gonna hesitate too long with me, you know. But anyways, that night the taxi arrived, and as he's walking, I don't know even how many people jumped on him, but they jump on him, and all I could do from the porch is just run. Now I'm a little guy. I'm still a little guy, right? But from wrestling, I know You gotta use whatever little weight you have to your advantage, right? So there was an individual on top of him, and I just rushed him and I jumped on him, took him off, and I turned around, I leaned on him, sat on his chest, and just started binking him. As I'm binking him, I I just felt cracks, right? And once I felt that, I tried to get up. I couldn't. I kept trying to get up. I couldn't. I just couldn't. I know what they had hit me with, but I just couldn't, right? But anyways, you know how all those things happen like in a flash, right? And I got to where Luis was at, and I remember he was telling me like, "Hey, fool, dile a mi jefa que," and I was telling him, "Nah, fool, shut up. You gotta tell your jefa. Mm, don't even say that, fool. Don't talk," cause he was splitting blood. And anyways, the Judas got there, and they would end up taking us both, right? I had 28 stitches, I believe, underneath my right eye, and I had a few stitches on top of my lip, you could say, on my left side, and then where it hit and cracked in my head, I have like a Y there, right? And remember, I was just in the hospital, and I was real close with Maria. I remember I mentioned her to you guys a lot. Shy girl, my homegirl, shy girl. That was his sister, and she came in and she was just quiet, and I knew her too good, right? And I told her what happened, and she's like, "Lucy, you didn't make it," and it was, I don't know what snapped inside me, to be sincere, that day. From here, I always been real good at separating. I don't know if that makes sense. I've always had to live three different lives straight up since kid. The Mexican one, where the easiest thing is to dump someone and make a hole and plant a tree where you bury him for the tree to grow, right. And then the one in California where it's better to just go from the shoulders, right, knuckle up, so that you're not able to get in trouble. And also always playing that part that everything's good in the house, right? But I won't speak about how things were in my house. They were what they were, and everybody has to go through their struggles in their own house, right? But that day something snapped in me, and I knew he was dead, because in one of them times I told him to be quiet. You're gonna tell your jefita. Have you guys ever seen when the life leaves somebody, you could totally see it in their eyes? But I mean, they stabbed him 42 times and they shot him over 30 times. You know, I was a mocoso, so I grew up there with them. So I guess with that trancazo with the full bottle, it was enough for me to be thrown aside like basura, right? Like, and it happened. I couldn't do nothing no more. But that's where everything's happened. Sorry I took you back so long. From there, I definitely went to the neighborhood. There weren't too many of us from the clique, but our big homie Guerrero was still out there being a homie. Snoopy, there was a few, right? My cousin Gallo, and within the night, I told him, "Hey, jump me in. Fool, you live in South Park. How you gonna get in? Fool, jump me in." You know, and I got jumped in the neighborhood, right? Again, I was on Mocoso, so they did a good work on it, especially my cousin. He's a dick, cause anyways, that's part of right. Now I had to pull my first Harley, which is the one that led me to come stay to Mexico for a very long time, right? You see, I knew everybody in South Park. One of them was including an individual that was involved, right? And I had a homeboy, Armando. He didn't like them old cars. He liked Camaros. Them old Camaros dropped in rims and, you know. So again, we went to this fool's house and just waited for him to come out. And when he did, I just pulled out one of them. You guys know them old shotguns, and the man that I seen him, I just called him by his name. Hey, Luisillo says hello, and I pull, and I didn't see his face no more. And to be honest, I was in so much pain because they had yanked my shoulder from my thing. I didn't know how to shoot shotgun. I was used to the ranch, maybe a cuerno at the most, but it was with help, mostly all handguns, right? Anyways, from there it just kicked off. It just kicked off again. I had real hate for norteños. I wish I'm gonna be able to get some of my homeboys on here for you guys can see that I was the coolest homie, right? As long as we were in our blocks. 9th Street, Papago, Apple Valley. We're there having fun, drinking. But if we drove outside our neighborhood, it was boogie time. No buts or ifs. Boogie time. First norteño you seen, you're gonna stop. And we're gonna let it be known. You know, uh, there's a good homie of mine. We'll just call him P, right? That day I got arrested, he tried to stop me. And he used to tell me, like, I used to always tell you, fool, to kick it, to kick it. But for me, it became something too strong, right? Because After after Luis, they killed Perro, they killed Peña, they killed Oso, they killed. It was back to back, right? We were outnumbered, big time, right? It was just us, really, and Papago and the little bit in West Ninth, right? So it was always back and forth, right? And I remember the night I went to YA. We went in the Norteños neighborhood with Norteñas, and my mind always worked like an idiot, right? So I told my ace dude streamer, I told him, fool, let's go find one of them little burn cards. So we went and we got this little Chevy, not even common for whatever. We went and grabbed this little Chevy, right? And at the same time, we had Holly with us. We had guns, but in the apartments we were at, right behind them apartments, they literally all them dudes lived, the norteños. They were known as the Vaca family. I didn't really know exactly where they lived, to be sincere. I just know that's their hangout spot, right? That night, Soñador was with me, Dreamer. Soñador was Luisillo's or Speedy's brother, younger brother. So I felt an obligation there, right? And anyways, they told us they were there. We went over there, and I remember I was telling some veterano, hey, Kyle, Kyle, you're an older vato. You should have some clecha, some huevos. Kyle to the side and let's buck up. And some other fool kept coming with a gun, right? And told him that's what I thought. You fools are weak. It happened 2, 3 times, and I was trying to push my homeboy back, right? Because I didn't want him to. I don't want to lose him, right? I already had that in from. So I just told him, "Hey, fool, vente," and I just told him, "Don't trip. I'll be back." So we left. We went into my homegirl's pad. Soñador's sister and Sleepy. I told Maria, "You got a banger?" She goes, "All I have is a 45. Préstamela. I'll bring it back." So we went and we're still just kicking it with the hyenas, right? And they start coming out from everywhere. I'm talking to you guys from everywhere. When I see this fool named Mike Baca, he was he was one of the most wanted norteños at that time in town, right? When I see him walking down the street with a machete, I tell Soñador Vente, and I get in the middle of the street and I told him who you be looking for, and that fool he sees the cuete and he's like, oh no 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 no, I told you guys put it down, let's buck up. What's up? And then as we're there, homeboy saw one, right, and that fool Mike goes, F SUR, and I just go F you and I start trying to pull, but and I was so stupid I forgot to yank on it, right? When I realized it, them fools were running and I start dumping on them, chasing them. I hit that fool in the leg and then they got me for shooting at his house. Remember, I didn't even know where he lived. He lived down the street. I was shooting at him, the last house on that street. Then they also got me for stolen car and for sales and for pointing a gun to an officer because we ran in an apartment and it was empty. I'm in the kitchen and I'm looking out like, oh man, you're hearing a whole bunch of commotion, right? And the first fool that looks in the window, I'm gonna blow his head off. And it happened to be a Huda. And all I said was, whoa. And they knocked the door down, they let go of the dogs, and you guys know the rest. Anyways, I went to YA for that one right there. And right when I got out, I had a different mentality. I don't know. I had already talked to one of my uncles out here in Mexico and told him, like, look, I can't be out here, but I'm not gonna leave just because they want me to. No, I'm gonna leave making sure that they'll remember me. My uncle said, hey, cállate cuando sea, come to the ranch. And I had not gone to the neighborhood in like about 2 weeks. 2 weeks, right? I went to a neighborhood once because there was a crib that stabbed my ace dude streamer. So I went and when I ran in his house and you know things unfolded. The way they did there, and that was that. The next day, Dreamer comes to the house and tells me like, "Hey, Chino, give me a ride to the neighborhood, fool." I tell him, "Fool, you trying to get me to come back to the neighborhood day in, day out, fool. I don't want to do that right now. There's a bunch of fools that are weenies that are telling. And he goes, "You're just gonna leave me, and we're gonna leave." I already had gone down this before, you know, and the person I was with, the Ukrainian, even told me, "Hey, Dick, just take him." So I was like, "Hey, vamos pues, let's go, fool. I'll drop you off and see if I see anybody just to say Q and I'm gone, fool. I ain't in that drinking mood. I ain't into none of that right now." But you see, when you walk in my neighborhood, there is a court, a dead end, right? That court leads out to Papago Courts or Apple Valley Lane. But right on that court, I had a homegirl, an older homegirl, India. She was Native American, right? She had a grip of kids, and I knew she had sons that were norteños. But when you're getting all caught up in the mix, you just don't, you know, you just don't care about it really, or you just don't put one and one together. So when I'm walking on the court, right behind the court, there's a playground. Behind the playground, there's a creek, right? And I get mad and I told Dreamer, I told him, fool, what's this? And he goes, I don't know, fool. I told him, you mean to tell me I'm going in and out for the neighborhood to get out and have this cats walking around my neighborhood como nada? This is some straight lame And he goes, I have never seen these fools here, you know? And so, fool, give me 5 minutes. I went in, grabbed a bat, not like a bat, just a normal tube, right? And I told him, just when you feel that I'm back there in the creek, jump out and hit him up. At that time, we're warring with PL the worst. But regardless, you're norteño, you had to bounce, right? So it happened to the dot, Dreamer jumped out and he hit him up. And Teo was the one that said, BSRN Norte. And right when he said that, I cracked him behind the head. When I cracked him behind the head, the other fool tried to run, and I just hit him one good one in the back, but he was gone. So I came back, and I'm trying to sound like a nice guy. For a while I was like F, and I was picking him up like a golf court, in the head, pink, pink. I don't know even for how long. I just remember I told Dreamer, hey fool, here, throw this in the creek. Vámonos. Let's get the hell out of here, fool. So we ended up splitting, right? That night, a whole bunch of them dudes came and they stabbed my homeboy Lalo behind my action, right? And then it turned out that that fool was there visiting his mom, uh, uh, Anna, which I had no right to, how do I say it, to even go there with him when he's visiting his heifer that lives in the neighborhood, right? We didn't get down like that, right? They didn't get down like that with us either, honestly. But nowadays they stab Lalo, it was on and cracking, right? So we did a meeting. Remember, it was a Friday, and vámonos. At this time, everybody knew you did it to Apple Valley, and we're gonna go hunt. We're gonna go hunt down regardless. You know, we looked in every neighborhood, NX4, BSP. We looked all over PL, BSRN, nada. There was nothing. So as we're cruising, my homeboy Pepillo, he was telling me there's nobody, Chino, just kick it, fool. Just kick it. So we separated. We got to a Safeway and I took the wheel, right? No, I'm lying. Soñador took the wheel. I'm in the shotgun and I got two young homies, one from my neighborhood and one from my left in the back. Nothing was supposed to happen no more. It was dead issue. Then everybody was hiding, really, right? But as we're going down Mendocino Avenue in front of the college, there's literally a Burger King and a McDonald's, and the parking lots meet. So when I see this, I tell Soñador, Ira, Ira, get up in there, fool, get up in there. And it was a couple vans and a few cars. So he runs up in there and he starts jamming him up. And I have a nine, but I have it in the seat, right? I can't get it out for some reason. And then fool see me fumble, and they get on the cars and they take off. For those that know Santa Rosa, from the JC to the gas station on College, it's not too far, maybe a quarter of a mile, maybe. So they were hauling butt, and I'm telling my homeboy, follow them, fool. Follow them, follow them, follow them. If you see them stop a Huda, just, vámonos. Other than that, follow them. Well, right there at the gas station, it was three gas stations and a restaurant, right? They stop on the side of the gas station where the highway runs through. There's a little alley behind the gas station, and there's the highway. And man, I want to get my paperwork for you guys. That night, I had a blue Dallas Cowboys beanie, a jersey, a black sweater, and I was, and they were shooting, they were dumping at us. And I was leaning out the window just telling them, like, F you, Kyle. I wanted them to get close enough for me to clip them, right? But at all this, I forgot that that dreamer had a 22. So he leaned out and he shot one shot. And I felt that shot real close. And I just said, you know what, F this. I jumped out the car and I started dumping back at them. At the moment, I had a 4 Glock, 40 Glock, and a 9, right? And as we're running through the gas station, me chasing them, I know I hit them. I know for a fact I hit them. At least two of them I knew I had hit, you know. So, anyways, we get to the alley, and I lost track of them. I run all the way to College Avenue, and I don't see them around. I take the clip off the 9 and put a new one in as I'm coming back. Forgive me, senora, but I hear noises in the bushes. Them big bushes. And as I move on my side, it's a fool they call Mr. Frost. He's supposed to be an NF, right? From South Park. And that fool had hit in the stomach, and he starts like, man, fool, you already got me. I lost. Woo, woo, woo. And I straight told him, you didn't lose. You're still speaking, ese. So you didn't lose. And he starts doing a whole bunch of begging. I will not get into it, right? And I unloaded five in his head. As I did that, I kept walking, and I don't know, maybe another 10 feet, I hear something else in the bushes, and it's Ruben, right? This lady's son. Forgive me, Maria, but, and he had hit him in the back. And he just turned around and he's like, I don't even game bang no more, which I knew was a lie. He was flatty. His brother was an NFer, so I knew exactly who he was. He had just pulled an AK on us Well, anyways, and he just tell me told me like, hey homeboy, you already got me, you know, there's no point for you to lose your life. I told him I ain't losing nothing, you know, and I'm not gonna go there, but he begged right for his life, and I unloaded the rest of the nine on his head. And there was a third person down the behind. I want to reload or nothing. It was already had been time, so I ran back through the gas station, jumped in the car, and I told Dreamer, "Vámonos," you know. And I thought I was smart, but you know I was stupid, right? And Dreamer asked me what's gonna happen. I go, "A war. There's gonna be a war." And he asked me why, and I told him, you know, that was Frost from BSP and Flatty from NX4, you know. And he goes, "Oh, they're gonna be hot. It is what it is, right? Vámonos." So we're like 2 blocks from La Plaza, right? I told him take the back streets because there's a creek, you know. I forgot I had clips of the 22 in my pockets, right? Because I even grabbed the 22, I grabbed the 9, the 40, and I had a switchblade, I remember, and everything else I had. I put it all in the jersey I had, and then I put it in the beanie, tried to wrap it up, and I threw it in the creek, right? And I told him, "Vámonos." And maybe a couple blocks before we hit Santa Rosa Avenue, a cop pulls behind us, and I'm telling Dreamer, "Hey, fool, stop, stop! I'm gonna bowl out. When I bowl out, you step on the gas, they're gonna follow you, fool." And he goes, "They're not gonna stop us, fool. They're not gonna stop us. They're looking for somebody with blue." And anyways, for those that know, from Bosley Avenue to Flower Street, they had a they had already a stop, you know, gang test and everything. And I told him, "Damn, fool, see." And I told her, "Run. There's a gas station there." I told him, "Run up in the gas station. I'm gonna jump out, fool." I wasn't gonna get away no more. I knew that, but I wasn't gonna make it easy either, right? And then Barrera was there with gang tags that used to call me La Liebre because I was gone no matter what. And when my homeboy stopped and I tried to open the door, two big old Rottweilers were almost at the door, and I just closed it and said, "Man, ni pedo," right? So they brought a bunch of norteños, and you know how they shine the light on you, and they straight up said no, that it wasn't me, you know, because when they shined the light, I was bald headed. I had a black San Jose Shark sweater. Yeah, I had a blue red belt, blue Ben Davis, dark blue Nike Cortez, but I didn't have the beanie nor the jersey that the guy seen me run through with, right? And anyways, they were gonna let us go. I swear to you, they were gonna let us go. And that damn fool Barrera, the gang test, he's like, "What are you doing?" They saying it ain't him. I'm gonna let him go for what? What can I arrest him for? Well, first and foremost, he can't be bullheaded showing his tattoos on his head. That's one. Two, he can't wear the color blue. You know, he can't be around known gangbangers at all. His son, juvenile parole. So, anyways, they would end up arresting me, and the two individuals that were in the back seat, you know, the young one from that wanted to be from my neighborhood because his older brothers were, he straight up snitched. The fool from my left, they straight up told on me, you know. So I remember we were in juvenile hall and we're laughing. Mr. Ramos is a fool I grew up with, right? But he's the director of juvenile hall, and he starts getting off on me like, Chino, you think this is funny? And I told him, yeah, this is funny. It's real life, you know? That's what's really happening. And what's funny to me might not be funny to you. And definitely what's funny to you ain't funny to me. And I started trying to tell my homeboy Dreamer, hey, fool, tell them fools it was me. Tell them I shot. I started everything. The guns with me, they found the clippings of the 22 on me, nothing on you. So that you were able to get out, fool. I'm washed. And I couldn't convince my homeboy. He was like, nah, hell no, fool. We ride it together or we get out together. And I remember I used to send my lawyer to talk to him, and he would still say, no, it ain't gonna happen. Tell him not to trip. I love him, and we're gonna write this out together. So I was a stupid one, though. I was supposed to be treated like say a juvenile, right? I was 16. But remember that fool that I told you that I grabbed with the with the bat tail? I don't know what he did a couple days later, but he went into the pause juvenile hall. He still had old staples on him, right? But that fool had him sit on it for reals. Remember, I'm sitting down and he says next to me, and he goes, "What's up, Benny?" And I'm like, "Oh, bim, 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 bim." I reopened up his staples and everything, and they shot my butt back out to county because of that. Once I hit county, that's when they lifted all these charges. My first charges was that attempt to murder, and then the attempt to murder on these fools. I shot and hit. Attempt to murder an innocent lives because I could have blown the gas stations. Discharge of a firearm in city limits. Two 187s, and the possibility of another 187 to a crib, and now I'm not telling this to glorify nothing I've done. I regret this. Especially, I said it throughout the whole video. Maria's a beautiful lady. She never gave up on me. I remember she went into county trying to speak to me. I used to laugh at her. I swear to you. I was just that stupid, right? Because she used to tell me, like, you gotta ask God for forgiveness. And I used to laugh. And what God? You ask your God for forgiveness. I don't need nobody to forgive me for anything. And she kept going. And at one time, I was real rude. And I told her, look, you keep asking me what the last words of your son were. He was begging me for me not to kill him before I put one in his head and unloaded the rest. You see, game banging is a game. Your son lost that day. Stop coming to see me. And I walked out. She never stopped, yo. Never. And if you guys can sincerely tell me that's not a gift from God, man, she's older now. I need to make it up to her. I know I will never be able to replace a son, but, you know, she herself was surprised when up at the ranch. I thought twice about hitting this fool in the head. She's like, God's already in your heart and you don't want to recognize it. But, anyways, everyone, that's how I got busted. I got sentenced to 2 life sentences, you know, one as a juvenile. Wasn't supposed to hit CDC till I completed that one. Right after that, I was supposed to complete a life without as an adult. The kicker is I never went to YA for this. You know, that's where the technicality comes in. But I'll end this here. There is no message here, but I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. Always have been. I got taught by my grandpa, my father, to, well, we'll leave it here. Buenas noches, everyone.